Q3 and 7.8 Q4. A 7% growth on that looks like a tall order. So what's your best guess of the full year? And more importantly, rate cut.
Lata, first of all, February end, when these numbers come out, it will come out with a lot of revisions. So for all you know, second half of FY24, if the growth number comes down, then suddenly the base may look, favorable. But that is all statistical. Yeah, I mean, what we are seeing is that even if you get 7%, you'll get to only 6.5%. I mean, without the revision. So that's something which we need to keep in mind. Now, as far as growth and inflation is concerned, what are the numbers? We have 6.2% inflation and growth at 5.6% or 5.5%, whichever you want to take it, for July, September. RBI is still an inflation targeting central bank. So obviously, it will give more importance to inflation being above the upper threshold. So I don't think, December immediately RBI would be cutting rates. But I've written this few days back that RBI should be cutting at least the CRR, at least 25 basis points and infuse permanent liquidity so that, the liquidity in the system improves to some extent and you can, drive the short-term yields lower to the repo rate. And if RBI feels strongly that growth is kind of fallen too much compared to their expectation, you can possibly have an effective easing by bringing liquidity again, into the system so that the short-term rates fall to the SDF rate without cutting the repo rate immediately. And then, decide in February whether they should be cutting rates or April. Now, the thing is, if you've seen RBI State of the Economy report, it kind of indicated that October, December nowcasting is tracking close to 7.5%. I don't know whether it will go up that high, but even if you are at 7%, then the question is whether you see July, September as a temporary slowdown. And after that, you're going back to 7%. Therefore, you don't need to panic and cut rates. But you start with the liquidity transmission. So you've changed the stance to neutral. The next stage could be a CRR cut. And you bring the liquidity back to the system and then follow through a rate cut in either February or April, depending on how urgent.
Kaushik, my apologies for cutting you because we are out of time. Aditi, sorry, only 10 seconds. What policy support?
So status quo in December and higher likelihood of a rate cut in February, followed by April if inflation kind of falls in line with what we're hoping.
Okay, thank you very much. So none of our economists are expecting a rate cut, but really CRR cut comes on the table because of this, and also because the Reserve Bank may have to be in a liquidity squeezing mode. Every time it sells dollars to protect the rupee, what you're actually doing is pulling back rupees from the system. You're selling the dollar, taking away the rupees. So that's why, as Kaushik was pointing out, the call rate, which ought to be at 6.5 at the repo rate, has gone up to 6.7. It's gone up to the higher level of the corridor. And perhaps now CRR cut comes on the table when the MPC meets on December 6th. It's not an MPC preserve. It's an RBI's decision. We have to see whether they use that tool. Thank you very much, Aditi, Sakshi and Kaushik, for enhancing our understanding of the GDP number. The GDP number is an unadulterated disappointment. On that note, we wrap up on the State of the Economy show. Please stay tuned in. There's lots of news and views lined up for you.
यहाँ तो पुराना ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट वाला टीवी हुआ करता था ना, और यहाँ वो किर्लोस्कर ब्रदर्स, अब भी किर्लोस्कर ब्रदर्स।
कुछ चीजें कभी नहीं बदलती।